Today we need to get into fans demanding that people make an apology to Jung Kook. People then threatened and protest to mass unfollow after people believe Jung Kook supports Zionism and what that is about. And then HYBE goes to court over a BTS stalker. So hey dumplings, it's Dave. Decide hate it or not, make sure you're subscribed with the notification bell on. Grab your dumpling, taste bling mug merch, and let's go. If you're not aware, Taeyang was recently followed into the elevator of his building, and it was a stalker that had followed him. We have a huge update on this situation that would be nice to hear. However, if you don't know what is going on, I must give some backstory. The stalker handed Taeyang marriage papers, and then with those documents, Taeyang called the police and had her arrested. This, of course, is enough to arrest someone, but I was curious as to specifically how Taeyang knew she was a stalker as opposed to maybe a fan that lived in the building and just happened to see Taeyang a lot or whatever, and actually a lot more information came out that makes the story a lot more disturbing. So what happened? Apparently the stalker would allegedly wait around for Taeyang's vehicle and apparently had appeared around Taeyang's building multiple times. This is of course very concerning. However, if the stalker was just around, it would really be only speculation as to if she was a stalker, and Taeyang couldn't really actually do anything. But apparently she was able to bypass security one time and then go into the elevator to hand Taeyang some marriage documents. Of course, at this point, Taeyang could then get her arrested, and he did. Apparently, this also unfolded a bit more in court, which is when we got all the information, and then the woman was then given a restraining order, so she could not call, text, or go anywhere near Taeyang, which is something that isn't even like a restraining order, should just be something that everyone is already not doing to Taeyang. In Korea, there is a newly enacted stalker law put in place, and for some reason, there were a lot less people being stalked to BTS before the law was enacted, or it was just never reported because it wasn't illegal. But either way, it's disturbing to hear how it has happened to almost each member of BTS. And those who have not talked about it have likely just not spoken about it, but still deal with it. Big Hit, of course, put out a statement to say that they will not be taking this lightly, and there is no settlement policy. So just because the stalker might be super rich, Big Hit isn't just going to take a dollar amount and then let the stalker continue to do their thing. Big Hit is going to arrest anyone that puts the artist's safety in danger, and that is great. Of course, many people were asking and demanding that HYBE take legal action and do something to these sorts of fans, and we finally are seeing that happen. Now, if the woman is proven guilty of this, which we probably won't get an update on, however, if Taeyang called the police on her, there's a chance he really believes that this woman was stalking him, because handing someone marriage papers is not illegal or indicative of stalking, at least not in court. You need hard evidence of someone stalking you, and that could probably be security footage, which I am sure the building probably has. So if this goes forward, the stalker can face up to 3 years in prison or a $21,000 fine, which is interesting because I don't know who this money is going towards. Is it the government? Anyway, it's likely they will get jail time because most people don't have $21,000 sitting around. And people online love to talk about the treatment the boys get, and for moments like this, you can bet people are going to say that we all need to apologize to Taeyang. And then there's moments where it's demanded that the fans give Jung Kook an apology, even though Jung Kook will likely never see it, nor would he understand what it's about. This is another thing that is weird within the whole fan culture of K-pop, is the fans will create drama between themselves, will create drama in their own head, and then mass apologize to the idol as if they even understand what happened or knew there was an issue. This is not gaslighting, but it's a form of altering reality of the idol, because the idol is sitting there thinking everything is fine. Meanwhile, there's drama happening, and then an apology to him, it doesn't feel like something that is real. And kids do this all the time, where they argue with each other and then suddenly it's the parents' problem. However, these people arguing online are not all kids. Some of them are much older and should know better or have better things to do. However, this case in which fans were asking other fans to apologize is probably more so in the middle, as in I kind of understand why it's being asked. People in the fandom think that every member's solo was mistreated by the fandom. And this is very hard to understand because you'll see the same thing happening to J-Hope, and people saying everyone needs to apologize to J-Hope because the entire fandom ignored his solo album. But then scroll down to the Jung Kook fandom and see the same thing said about ARMY's ignoring his work. And then move on to Taeyang's fandom, where you see people saying that Jungkook is receiving all the love and everyone is ignoring Taeyang's album. It's strange, and the only way I can explain why this happens is because social media is an echo chamber. When you're a solo fan of a specific member, you're only going to see updates and news of that member and thus not realize what's happening outside. When you realize what is happening outside and the same thing is happening to each member's fandom, then you might sit there and be like, this is just normal, and the individual members are not being ignored. The thing that people always say within Jungkook's fandom is that big accounts don't tweet about Jungkook enough. Meanwhile, Taeyang's fandom says all big accounts ignore Taeyang. So whatever, and then people are just saying that not enough fans are streaming Jungkook's music, which then makes people say that Jungkook is being mistreated by the fandom, and that's very frustrating for those who have been streaming and doing a lot. It's also extremely interesting because on the literal flip side of that, a lot of people in the fandom constantly keep saying that Jungkook is overrated and that he is getting payola, which K-pop fans love to say promotion advertising is payola because they think when an artist puts money behind their promotion, that means they're an industry plant or that they didn't work as hard for their success. Whereas Western artists see promotion and ads as such a normal part of promotion and will get mad when labels don't do this for their favorite artists. And so we have a lot of split opinions. Since Jungkook has decided to do stuff for a more Western audience, Jungkook is prone to a lot of pushback because in America, a lot of celebrities and public figures love to be a part of the political landscape in Korea. Whereas in Korea, K-pop is a bit political, but it's not the same. It is still seen as somewhat entertainment. We've had our literal former president being an actor and entertainer. I can't really give a better example of how people in the US trust their celebrities more than their politicians. So if you don't know what is going on and what the political backlash here with Jungkook is, let me explain. I will try to be as neutral as possible, and if I'm going to be 100% honest, I don't have a standpoint on this situation, nor do I think I should. So genuinely, my opinion is actually that I don't have one. I don't want to pick a side. Jungkook had been working with some Western producers and celebrities for his song 7 and the album. People were saying that Jungkook's dancers, as well as the CEO Scooter Braun, are all Zionists, and then Jungkook was being called a Zionist or supporting that. Now, if you don't know what is going on with this, let me explain very briefly and at a very surface level. I am completely stripping out the cultural aspect and emotional stuff. Much of the reason I don't have an opinion is because I don't and never will understand everything that is going on over there, nor can I relate to it. I'm also stripping the violence aspect of it. I really don't want to look at which side is doing what, because what I've seen is quite disturbing and I want to leave this out of the conversation right now. And I understand that that is a reason people are picking sides. So I am sure people will have comments and opinions. Please put them down there, yell at me about them, cancel me about them. I've never been on for me to be canceled, but if you want to cancel me, then do it. Do whatever you want to do. The amount I make from these K-pop videos actually aren't even enough to support my living in New York at this point. Anyway, what is going on? So after the Holocaust, there was a new establishment in Israel. This was around 1948. Zionism was a movement that was going on to advocate for a Jewish homeland and for the history of Israel. For a lot of Jewish people, I would imagine Zionism represents a deep connection to their religion and cultural heritage. And this is important to note. Now, on the opposing side, we have the Palestine perspective. They argue that the establishment of Israel led to the displacement of hundreds of thousands of Palestinians and the ongoing Israeli-Palestinian conflict. And of course, with this, there's a lot of tension, understandably, going on for forever. The group that Jungkook is working with has allegedly been very open about being on the Zionist side. A lot of them and a lot of people in entertainment are Jewish. In fact, it's a bit of a running joke that if you want to get ahead in entertainment, you should marry a Jewish person because they will likely be or know someone in entertainment. This is why it makes sense that someone like Scooter Braun would pick the side he picks. You might not support it, but it makes sense why he chose that. Jungkook, on the other hand, has nothing to do with the conflict, has probably the same understanding as me where the conflict is not personal to him. So even if he's friends with people from either side, it doesn't mean he is choosing a side. He is still remaining either neutral or without opinion, because we don't know until he has verbally given his side, which I don't think he should or ever would because it's not his or my place. Let me know what you think. Make sure you check out Patreon for more videos. Link down below. Thanks for this lovely comment right here. Love you. Bye.